The rain had not stopped for 2 days. Mud covered the narrow French road like wet cement, and somewhere beyond the dark hedgerows, engines were moving. Heavy engines. American infantrymen lying in shallow foxholes near St. El could hear the sound before sunrise on July 28, 1944. Low, metallic, slow Panthers. The word moved quietly from man to man like a warning nobody wanted to hear twice. Some soldiers pulled their helmets lower. Others stared into the fog, waiting for shapes to appear. Everybody already knew the stories. German Panther tanks could punch through a Sherman from impossible distances. One hit was usually enough. Sometimes
If you want more content like this, subscribe now and comment below.
the crew inside never even escaped, burned alive before the hatch could open. That fear followed every American tanker in Normandy. A few hundred yards behind the infantry line, inside a Sherman tank covered in mud and rainwater, Corporal Daniel Harper wiped condensation from his gun sight with his sleeve. The tank smelled like fuel, sweat, wet canvas, and hot steel. Harper was 21 years old from Ohio, and even after weeks in France, he still hated the sound of artillery landing nearby. Every explosion rattled through the metal hull like someone smashing the tank with a giant hammer. Across from him sat loader Benny Russo, chewing gum nervously while stacking 76 Memmer rounds beside the gun breech. The shells looked larger than the old ammunition they trained with back in England. Cleaner, too. More dangerous. Their commander, Sergeant William Bill Turner, leaned halfway out of the hatch, rain dripping from his helmet. He scanned the hedgerows through binoculars while listening to radio chatter bursting with static. Nearby Sherman crews were already reporting movement ahead. German armor, possibly Panthers from the 2nd SS Panzer Division. Turner lowered the binoculars slowly and looked back inside the turret. "Everybody awake now," he muttered. Nobody answered. They were already awake. The Sherman tank had earned a reputation during the war, and not always a good one. German crews mocked it openly. Some called it a Tommy cooker because Sherman tanks often burned after penetration. Panther crews respected very few Allied tanks in 1944, and standard Shermans were not high on that list. The German Panther carried thick sloped armor, and the deadly 75 MME KWK-42 gun capable of killing Shermans from long range. In open ground, many American tankers felt they were already dead before they even saw the enemy. But inside Turner's tank, things were slightly different now. Weeks earlier, their old Sherman had been destroyed outside Cayenne. A Panther shell tore through the front plate before the crew even spotted the German tank. Harper still remembered the sound of the impact. Not an explosion at first, more like a violent crack that shook the air from his lungs. Their driver died instantly. The rest escaped through smoke and flames. Since then, every crewman carried the memory silently. Then came the replacement tank. The new Sherman looked familiar from outside, but mounted inside the turret was something different. The newer 76 Me M1 gun. Longer barrel, higher velocity, better armor penetration. Crews whispered about it constantly after arriving in Normandy. Some officers claimed it could finally fight Panthers properly under the right conditions. Others warned men not to trust rumors. Tank crews survived by respecting reality, not optimism. Still, Harper believed in the gun. He had watched the armor-piercing rounds punch through captured German plates during training demonstrations in England. The instructors explained weak spots on Panther armor, turret sides, lower hull, flanking angles, close-range opportunities. But training grounds were one thing. Real combat was another. The rain suddenly stopped. Silence settled over the fields for several seconds. Then came the sound. Engines. Closer now. Turner immediately dropped inside the turret. Movement ahead. Everybody ready. The Sherman lurched forward slowly through mud as infantry scattered alongside the road. Harper pressed his eye against the sight. Visibility was terrible. Hedgerows blocked almost everything. Normandy fighting had become a nightmare of short-range ambushes where tanks appeared without warning. Crews lived in constant tension because every corner could hide a Panther waiting with its gun already aimed. A radio voice crackled through static. Enemy armor spotted near the crossroads. Repeat, Panthers near the crossroads. Harper felt his heartbeat speed up. The Sherman rolled forward another 50 yards. Mud splashed across the hull. Branches scraped the turret. Then Harper saw it. Movement through the fog. Dark shape. Low silhouette. Panther. The German tank emerged slowly between trees roughly 700 yards away. Even through rain and smoke, its shape was unmistakable. Long gun barrel. Sloped armor. Deadly and calm. Another Panther followed behind it. Target front, Harper shouted. Turner reacted instantly. Armor piercing. Fire when ready. Russo slammed a .76 memory round into the breech with practice speed. The turret rotated. Harper centered the sight carefully, breathing slowly despite the shaking tank beneath him. The Panther was moving sideways now, not fully exposed. Bad angle. Steady, Turner whispered. The German tank suddenly stopped. Its turret began turning toward them. Harper fired first. The Sherman rocked violently backward as the .76 memory gun thundered across the field. Smoke filled the turret instantly. Harper lost sight of the target for one terrible second. Then the haze cleared. The shell struck the Panther near the turret ring. Sparks exploded outward. The German tank jerked sharply sideways. Hit! Russo yelled. But the Panther was not dead. Its turret kept turning. Then the German gun fired. The shell screamed overhead so close, Harper physically ducked inside the turret. Dirt exploded behind them. Infantrymen scattered into ditches. Driver move. Turner shouted. The Sherman accelerated hard into cover beside a hedgerow as another Panther shell slammed into the road they had occupied seconds earlier. Mud sprayed across the hull. Inside the tank, nobody spoke for several moments except the driver breathing heavily through the intercom. Turner looked toward Harper. "Can you kill him?" Harper stared back through the sight. The Panther was still visible through smoke. Damaged but operational. Another Sherman farther down the road suddenly exploded after taking a direct hit from the second Panther. Flames burst through the turret hatch. Nobody escaped. Harper swallowed hard. The fear was still there. The Panthers were still deadly. But now they could fight back. Reload. Turner barked. Russo shoved another armor-piercing round into the breach. The Sherman edged forward carefully from behind cover. Harper searched desperately through smoke and rain for the damaged Panther. Then he spotted movement again. The German tank was backing away slowly, turret still facing them. On target. Fire. The second .76 memory round slammed into the Panther's side armor at an angle just behind the turret. For half a second, nothing happened. Then orange flame burst from the rear engine deck. The Panther stopped moving. Black smoke poured upward into the gray Normandy sky. Inside Turner's Sherman, nobody cheered immediately. They simply stared through the sight in disbelief. A Panther burning. Killed by them. Turner finally exhaled slowly. Good shot. But the battle was far from over. The second Panther was still alive. And now it knew exactly where they were. The German tank fired again, smashing through a nearby stone wall. Chunks of rock blasted across the Sherman's hull. Harper flinched instinctively. Move left. Turner shouted. The Sherman crashed through bushes while infantrymen sprinted behind them. Machine gun fire crackled through the rain. Somewhere nearby, mortars started landing. The battlefield dissolved into noise and smoke. Harper searched frantically through the sight while the turret rotated. Nothing. Then suddenly the Panther appeared again between hedgerows at barely 400 yards. Too close. Both tanks saw each other almost simultaneously. The Panther turret moved first. Harper knew they would lose the race. Fire! Turner screamed. Russo had already loaded the shell. Harper pulled the trigger without perfect aim. The 76 mm round smashed into the Panther's mantlet beside the gun barrel. Metal fragments burst outward. The German shot fired a split second later, but the damaged aim sent the shell wide into a field behind them. Turner reacted immediately. Again. Reload. Aim. Fire. This time the shell penetrated low on the Panther hull. White smoke burst from the German tank instantly. The Panther stopped. Then flames erupted through the commander's hatch. The crew inside began escaping seconds later, some burning as they climbed out. Harper stared silently through the sight while the Panther burned brighter in the rain. 2 Panthers destroyed. 2. Weeks earlier, nobody inside that Sherman would have believed it possible. The battle near St. L lasted another 3 hours. By afternoon, the Americans controlled the crossroads, but wrecked tanks covered both sides of the road. Shermans burned beside Panthers. Dead infantry lay half hidden in flooded ditches. Smoke drifted slowly over shattered trees. Victory never looked clean in Normandy. Later that evening, Turner's crew parked near an abandoned farmhouse while mechanics checked damage on the hull. Harper climbed out stiffly, his ears still ringing from the gun blasts inside the turret. Nearby infantrymen walked past the destroyed Panthers, staring at them with open curiosity. One soldier tapped the burned armor plate, thought these things were unstoppable. Turner overheard him. "Nothing's unstoppable," he replied quietly. But deep down, even Turner knew something important had changed. The arrival of the 76 mm Sherman did not magically make American tanks superior overnight. Panthers still carried heavier frontal armor. German optics remained excellent. One-on-one fights in open terrain still favored the Panther in many situations. American crews understood this clearly. Yet the new gun changed the balance enough to matter. Suddenly, Panther crews could no longer assume every Sherman was helpless at range. And in war, confidence matters almost as much as steel. As Allied forces pushed deeper through France during August 1944, more 76 memory Shermans entered combat. Tank crews adapted quickly. They learned to flank Panthers instead of charging directly. Infantry coordinated closer with armor. Artillery softened German defensive positions before tank advances. Radio communication between American units became faster and more flexible than many German formations struggling with fuel shortages and constant air attacks. Harper's crew saw these changes firsthand. Outside the town of Mortain in early August, they joined an American counterattack against German armored forces attempting to cut through Allied lines. Thick morning fog covered the hills, limiting visibility to dangerously close distances. Perfect conditions for ambushes. Turner hated fog more than anything. "You never see death coming," he once told Harper. That morning proved him right. Their Sherman advanced beside another tank platoon along a narrow country road lined with trees. Infantry marched cautiously nearby. Everything felt too quiet. Then a Sherman ahead exploded instantly. No warning, no visible enemy, just fire. The burning tank blocked the road while crewmen scrambled from the wreckage. Machine gun bullets tore through branches overhead. Panther left side. Somebody screamed through the radio. Harper searched desperately through the sight until he finally spotted the German tank partially hidden behind stone ruins nearly 600 yards away. Clever position. Hull down. Difficult target. The Panther fired again, destroying another Sherman farther behind them. Fear spread quickly across the platoon. For several seconds, nobody moved. Then Turner made a decision. Smoke round. Russo looked surprised but loaded it immediately. Harper fired smoke shells toward the Panther position, while nearby Shermans maneuvered off the road into fields. Thick white smoke spread across the battlefield, blocking German visibility. The Panther fired blindly through the haze, missing wide. Turner seized the moment. Right flank. Fast, their Sherman accelerated hard through muddy farmland while artillery exploded nearby. Harper gripped the sight tightly as the tank bounced violently across uneven ground. Suddenly they emerged beside the Panther's flank at less than 300 yards. The German crew never expected them there. Harper fired instantly. The 76 memory shell punched through the Panther's side armor near the ammunition storage. The explosion inside the German tank was catastrophic. The turret hatch blasted open with flames pouring skyward. Harper stared at the wreck while breathing heavily. Another Panther destroyed. But even during moments like this, victory came with terrible cost. When the fighting ended near Mortain, Harper walked past the wreckage of 3 American Shermans destroyed earlier in the ambush. One hull was still smoldering. He recognized the serial number painted near the rear plate. It belonged to Lieutenant Harris, a crew they ate dinner with 2 nights earlier. Now the tank sat burned black beside the road. That reality never disappeared. Even with the new gun, Sherman crews still died often. Panthers remained dangerous predators capable of destroying Allied armor with terrifying efficiency. But the psychological balance was changing. German crews began encountering Shermans willing to fight aggressively instead of simply surviving. By September 1944, American armored units approached the Lorraine region near Arracourt, France. The landscape there was rolling farmland covered in morning fog almost daily. Conditions became ideal for sudden tank battles at close range. German commanders launched powerful armored counterattacks using Panthers hoping to crush advancing American forces. Instead, many German tank crews entered one of the worst nightmares of the war. At Arracourt, experienced American commanders like Colonel Creighton Abrams and other aggressive armored officers used mobility and coordination brilliantly. Shermans hid inside fog banks. Tank destroyers waited behind ridgelines. Radio communication moved units rapidly against exposed German flanks. Harper's crew entered combat there on September 19. The morning began cold and silent. Fog covered everything. You could barely see 50 yards ahead. Turner stood half outside the hatch scanning empty whiteness while their Sherman moved slowly across wet fields. Somewhere beyond the fog, engines echoed faintly. German armor again. Then radio chatter exploded suddenly. Enemy tanks moving south, multiple Panthers, watch your left. The battlefield erupted almost instantly. Through gaps in the fog, Panthers appeared like ghosts before disappearing again seconds later. Tanks fired blindly at shadows and muzzle flashes. Confusion swallowed both sides. Harper suddenly spotted a Panther less than 200 yards away emerging from fog directly ahead. Too close for fear. Pure instinct took over. Target front. Fire. The 76 memory shell smashed into the Panther's lower hull before the German crew even stopped moving. The tank burst into smoke while another Sherman opened fire beside them. Then another Panther appeared. Then another. The battle became chaos. At one point, Harper watched 2 Panthers accidentally expose their flanks while maneuvering through fog searching for American positions. Shermans hidden nearby opened fire simultaneously. Both German tanks burned within moments. The myth of Panther invincibility was dying in those fog-covered fields. German crews were shocked by how quickly American tanks repositioned and attacked from unexpected angles. Instead of fighting static defensive battles, Sherman crews used speed constantly. The 76 Memmering gun finally gave them enough killing power to punish mistakes immediately. Hours later, Harper climbed from the Sherman after surviving another brutal day. Around him lay destroyed tanks from both armies scattered across muddy farmland. Some still burned quietly in the evening fog. Turner removed his gloves slowly while staring at a knocked-out Panther nearby. "Funny thing," he said softly. "Back in England everybody thought we'd never beat these things." Harper looked toward the ruined German tank. Guess nobody told them, but the war still had months left, and winter was coming. By December 1944, snow covered much of Belgium and Luxembourg as German forces launched their massive Ardennes offensive, later known as the Battle of the Bulge. Panther tanks once again spearheaded attacks through forests and frozen roads. American lines bent under enormous pressure. Harper's crew entered the Ardennes during freezing temperatures that turned tank interiors into steel iceboxes. Engines struggled to start each morning. Crewmen wrapped scarves around their faces inside the turret. Exhaust smoke hung motionless in cold air. The Germans attacked hard. Columns of Panthers pushed through snowy villages while exhausted American infantry fought desperately to hold crossroads and bridges. Near Bastogne, Harper's Sherman platoon received orders to delay advancing German armor long enough for reinforcements to arrive. The mission sounded simple. It was not. Before dawn on December 23, their tanks hid behind snow-covered trees overlooking a narrow road. Visibility remained poor because of falling snow. Harper rubbed warmth into his hands while staring through the frozen sight. Then they heard them. Panther engines. Turner whispered through the intercom. "Wait until close." Shapes slowly emerged through snowfall. One Panther, then four more behind it. The German column moved confidently down the road, probably expecting weak resistance from exhausted American defenders. Turner waited calmly. Closer. Closer. Then, finally, fire. The first 76 Memmer round struck the lead Panther directly in the side turret. Flames erupted instantly, blocking the road. The entire German column halted in confusion as Shermans hidden along the tree line opened fire together. The ambush was devastating. Panthers attempted turning their guns toward the forest, but snow, smoke, and burning wrecks trapped them in chaos. Harper fired again and again, while German return fire smashed trees apart overhead. One Panther managed firing back before a Sherman shell penetrated its hull. Another attempted reversing but slid sideways into a ditch. Within minutes, the road became a graveyard of burning armor. The surviving German crews retreated into the snowfall. Afterward, Harper climbed from the turret while snowflakes drifted around, black smoke rising into the gray sky. Burned Panthers lined the road like frozen metal skeletons. Nearby infantrymen walked past the wreck silently. One soldier stopped beside Harper's Sherman and stared at the long 76 Memmer barrel. "About time we had something that could hit back," he said. Harper looked toward the destroyed Panthers disappearing beneath falling snow. For months, Sherman crews had carried the reputation of being outmatched. German tankers believed American armor existed only in overwhelming numbers, never quality. But battle after battle proved something important. A tank was not just armor thickness or gun size. It was crew training, communication, mobility, timing, leadership, adaptation under pressure. And when the 76 Memmer Sherman entered that equation, Panther crews finally faced an enemy capable of killing them before they expected it. By early 1945, many German armored units were shadows of their former strength. Fuel shortages crippled operations, experienced crews were dead, Allied aircraft dominated the skies. Yet Panthers still fought dangerously until the war's final weeks. Harper's crew crossed into Germany during March 1945. The fighting there felt different. German towns lay shattered from bombing. Civilians moved silently through rubble. Bridges collapsed into rivers. The war no longer looked like victory for anyone. One afternoon near the Rhine, Harper's platoon encountered a damaged Panther abandoned beside the road. Its tracks were broken, turret slightly twisted from previous combat. American soldiers gathered around it curiously. Turner climbed onto the German tank and examined the armor carefully. "Still a hell of a machine," he admitted. Harper nodded. Because despite everything, Sherman crews respected Panthers deeply. They had seen what those tanks could do, but they had also learned something else. Panthers could burn too. And in 1944, that realization changed the battlefield forever.
If you want more content like this, subscribe now and comment below.